two teams that tied for the lead in the American League East. The Blue Jays won the division based on their season series record against the Yankees. And I love when it lines up like this. We play 162. They're totally even for the sake of fairness and narrative, justice, that these two teams get to battle it out over a 5-game set one more time. We will know once and for all who the better team is. Heading into the series, I'm going to pick the Yankees because I think as currently constructed, health-wise, their roster is better than Toronto's.
Yeah, and we can get into the pitching matchups and what we're thinking about here. But you mentioned that context, of course, of the teams tying. The Yankees took advantage of their easy schedule in September and made it interesting. And credit to Toronto for fending them off, because they also basically had to win almost every game over the last 10 days to ensure that they would at least remain tied and win that division. And they did that. Of course, the Blue Jays won this season series 8-5. Now, most notably, that includes a 6-1 record at home, including a memorable mop of the Yankees in early July when the Yankees were really kind of going through it. They played 7 of their games in the series in Toronto, 6 on the road. The Yankees did win both series, I believe, against Toronto at home. But this is part of why Toronto is here in the higher seed and with the bye, is because they were able to take care of New York in the middle of the season to that degree. That said, while the Yankees, we have seen plenty in October over the last half decade, have some big successes, some big failures, of course. The Blue Jays, who the fact that they are here, credit to them for what they have done this season, but it is hard not to think about how this has gone for them when they have been in the postseason recently, which is 3 straight trips to the playoffs, getting swept in 2 games in the wild card series. That's in 2020 against the Rays. That's in 2022 against the Mariners. That is in 2023 against the Twins. Now, only the series against the Mariners was at home.
You have a bad run of show in the playoffs when you're the one who breaks the Twins' playoff drought, right?
Dude, right, exactly. And the Mariners, for that matter, right? Like you're facing 2 teams that are known for losing in the playoffs or not being there at all. And that is how that went. They also, of course, lost Game 5 of the 2016 ALCS. So it is an L7 in October, dating back to 2016. The last time the Blue Jays won a playoff game, Aaron Sanchez got the start. So that is how long it has been. Shouts out to Aaron Sanchez, one of our favorites, but I don't know what he's up to now. I don't believe he will be pitching in this series for Toronto. That is for sure. So as for the pitching matchups, Kevin Gausman for sure going Game 1. And that's significant because the Blue Jays started Gausman, I believe, on the final day of the season to essentially help ensure, now they ended up scoring 1 billion runs, but to help ensure that they would even get that top seed, which could have backfired horrifically had they lost and then had to go to the wildcard series without him. But Gausman will be super rested. And do you have a sense for the first game for the Yankees? Because that one is going to be a question mark, whereas once we get to Sunday, presumably we will see Max Fried, who started on Tuesday.
I think it's got to be Luis Gil. Maybe they piggyback him and Will Warren. I just think that Gil's stuff is going to play better. Because of what Schlittler did last night, the bullpen's going to be ready to roll. And so they don't need as much length. I think Warren gives you length. I think Gil gives you a better chance to dominate. So I think he'll go 3 or 4, and then they'll start the carousel, which will be interesting because the Yankees haven't really done it like that yet this postseason, right? They got 6+ from Fried, 6+ from Rodon, and 8 oh God, 8 from Schlittler. So I think it'll be Gausman, Warren in Game 1, and then Game 2. Bieber Fried is sweet. That is going to be fascinating. I really think whoever wins that game wins the series. Then we'll come back here to the Bronx. I'll be here for Game 3 with Carlos Rodon against Trey Savage, which is just a delightful showdown of 2 North Carolina college not graduates. And this is hilarious. The first time that these 2 teams have met in the postseason, which is always a fun thing. Amazing
fact. And you mentioned Savage. we're assuming he's starting that game. I don't know where Max Scherzer fits into this pitching plan. I know John Schneider, when asked about it, he was like, yes, Trey Savage will be a part of our preventing runs, I think was the quote. He was like, he wasn't like he will start. He was like, he'll be a part of it.
Well, I
think
hope
it's a
so
fair
if you're
assumption.
putting him on the roster.
Right, exactly. So we can assume he's Savage. And then now, again, 24 hours ago, this wouldn't have been something I was zeroing in on at the start of this conversation. But boy, does Cam Schlittler loom large in a game 4 as a potential showdown with Gossman or whatever. So
Which
suddenly
is a
he's just like this
you
main
totally
character.
Thought
yeah,
you were going to say at some point this Yankee season. It's always funny, right? Aaron Boone talked about this. Like, he remembers Cam Schlittler coming to big league camp at the end of this year and like starting an important, the way Boone said, he was like, yeah, he started a big spring training game for us. I was like, a big spring training game? Like, for what? The Grapefruit League title? Like, and so for it to go from big spring training game to looms large in a game 4 is just great. Before we move on to Tigers guards, my one thing for this series is Aaron Judge. I believe he ended up with 4 hits in this series. They were all singles. He took some pretty bad at bats. One late in game 2 where he got a cookie from Garrett Whitlock when the score was still tied on a first pitch, just that hanging slider in the middle of the strike zone, and he just dribbled it foul. It was the type of pitch that Judge hits out a lot. Chris Kirshner at The Athletic had a good story about Judge heading into October, where as much as you can statistically prove that a player changes their approach in October, he does. He chases more. If you look at like the timing of his swing, he's out in front more. Seems a little bit antsier. It'll just, I mean, again, if the Yankees win the World Series, it's Aaron Judge won a World Series. And if the Yankees don't, it's Aaron Judge still needs a ring. And so he looked fine in this series, but if the Yankees are going to make a deep run and knock off the Blue Jays, they need him to hit some home runs. Jordan Shusterman, who you got in this series?
I will go. I'll go with the Yankees, but I don't know, man. I think Toronto's just kind of got that. They got that buzz right now. Now, again, you got to go prove it, as we just laid out. They have not proven a whole lot in October recently, but this is the fact that they got home field here feels significant, and I'm very, very curious. And the last thing I mentioned about Schlittler, the Red Sox hadn't faced him. I know they faced him against Northeastern. They did not face Schlittler in the regular season. The Jays faced him twice. He had pitched pretty well. It was his second career start, was in Toronto. And then his worst start of the season, he only lasted like an inning and 2/3. It seemed like he realized he was tipping his pitches, and that's why he got crushed. But the Jays have a little bit more familiarity with him, so that could play a role to some degree. But I'm going to go with the Yankees. I am going to go in 5, and that is somewhat manifesting because I think I would be the one to go cover that. So we will see if that actually happens. But I'm going to go Yankees in 5.
Great. I will do Yankees in 5 as well.
Tigers-Mariners. This is also the first time these two teams are playing in the postseason. That is less surprising than Yankees-Blue Jays for obvious reasons, because these two teams have not been in the playoffs that often. But this is indisputably the least compelling from a national buzz standpoint of the 4 division series. However,
you think?
I'm excited for this. I'm obviously going to be locked in for this one. I will be in Detroit for games 3 and 4 if necessary. The Mariners won the season series this year 4-2. They played in the second series of the year. The Tigers, who had come after getting swept by the Dodgers in LA, went up to Seattle and won that series. And then, quite memorably, the last series of the first half, the Mariners went into Detroit and put up 35 runs in 3 games and swept the Tigers. And it was like, okay, Mariners are turning it on. And that was kind of the beginning of like, uh-oh, Tigers, uh-oh. And the Mariners really started to heat up. So they really went in different directions after that point. The other thing to know about this matchup is that the Mariners are the only team to beat Tarek Skubal twice this season. Skubal allowed 3 runs against him in April, 4 runs against him in July. Now, that might not be good news for the Mariners, because the version that I just watched of Tarek Skubal the other day was one of the most dominant and ridiculous pitching performances I've ever seen. The Mariners lineup is a lot better than what the Guardians rolled out there. on Tuesday, and so that should certainly give them a better chance. However, Tarek Skubal, that version of him was going to be dominating against basically anybody. So if he can channel that again and bring out that version of him, anything close to that version of him in game 2, it's, they got a shot. But as I mentioned earlier, the Tigers hitting with runners in scoring position and just in general of the second half has just been so inconsistent. So few hitters that you're really banking on. And the reality of this matchup is that the Mariners are just way better on paper. And this is a situation where the big thing I'm thinking about them is they are the number one team that is going to be, if they even don't score for the first 3 innings on Saturday against whatever Tigers bullpen game they conjure up, you're going to start hearing, oh boy, they were rusty. They didn't know how to deal with the layoff. They're dealing a worse team, and they're nervous. They haven't scored a postseason run at home in 25 years. This is the team that is going to be like, are they feeling it? Whereas the Tigers are feeling good now. On paper, the Mariners should be able to handle the Detroit Tigers. That is a fact. But they got to do it because the Tigers, they're feeling good now. And so I certainly can't say it is a lock. But I think for the Mariners to not, they have to win this series for this season to not be a massive disappointment. What happens next round against the Toronto and the Yankees? You could say, oh, the Mariners are the team to beat in the AL. They have to get to the World Series. I'm not going to go that far. They have to win this series. They really, really, really do for this to feel like a meaningful step forward for the organization.
And I really think they need to take both of the games in Seattle. When they go back to Detroit, think about how the vibe is going to be in Detroit, right? The last time that the Tigers were at home, I believe they finished the season with that series in Cleveland and then going to Boston.
Yep, and then back to Cleveland. Yep. So,
and
they've been on the road for 2 weeks.
So this team has been in Detroit for a long time. It reminds me of the way that the 2022 Phillies, I believe they finished the year with a 10-game roadie and then won the wild card series in St. Louis. I was at that final Phillies series of the regular season, and there was no one there because they were like, this team is just going to flame out. And then I was at the first home game in game 3 of the DS, and it was a party. I would expect something. I mean, there's nothing like Philly fans. I would expect something similar in game 3. Like the energy, if the Tigers can take one of the two in Seattle, the energy for game 3 in Detroit is going to be awesome.
100%. And I'm so excited to be there for that. And I love that comp of 2022 because not only, it was a little bit different because of where the Phillies were. The Tigers finished their season on an L7 at home. Lost the series. Actually, they lost 5 straight series at home to end the season. Lost a series at home against the Mets, series at home against the White Sox, swept by the Guardians, swept by the Braves. That's how they finished their home slate. Now they get to come home for postseason baseball. And this is, as I mentioned about the same theme with the Mariners, like, this is the ultimate, like, if you can steal game 1 situation because you can give Skubal the ball in game 2. And the last super important point before we take a break here is Brian Wu. This dude who left his start on September 19th with a pec injury. They said it wasn't serious. They weren't going to put him on the IL. He threw a bullpen yesterday. It certainly doesn't seem like he's going to be available for the first couple games of the series, which is not good, but okay. You still got Logan Gilbert. You got Castillo. You got Kirby. You got good options. But man, oh man, like if Brian Wu's not even available for a game 3 or for a game 4, not until a game 5, if it even gets that far, that is concerning because he has been their best pitcher all season, and that is not what you want at this time of year is to be managing an injury like that in any sort of way. So that is ominous a little bit, but even with that, the talent gap here on both sides of the ball is substantial, and the Mariners should take advantage.
By the time we have the Tigers playing a home game in this series, I believe it will be October 8th. It will be over a month. October 7th, I think. It will have been over a month since they won a game at home. Their last W at home was on September 6th against the White Sox. Okay, so that feels unique for sure. All right, let's take a break. Yes. That was the AL. Went a little long, but this is
Mariners
the time
in
to
4.
do it. You're holding
Mariners in 4. What you got?
Mariners in 3.